This is Video for Magazines, and on this pod, we're talking graphic content.
Simplifying, explaining, need to know what to ask for, pull yourself out from the crowd, potentially ruinously expensive. But the great thing about maps...
Oh, look at your face. I'm Faye Carruthers, and this is the show that will help your title make or commission video and audio that really works. Simon Elliott from Crowdfinder is here. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, good.
What are we talking about today?
Basically, graphics are a great way to pull yourself out from the crowd, add quality. Everyone can make video these days. Everyone's got an iPhone. People are very used to making content for social platforms. But decent graphics are a good way to pull yourself out from the crowd and take yourself beyond just those people who are sort of social users. The reason people need to know about graphics, especially to start with, is because whether they in-house or commission a video company, they need to know what to ask for. It's really important that either the company they commission or their in-house team have graphics that are ready to go.
And when you're talking about graphics, what exactly can graphics add to video?
So one of the things they can really do is add pace. You know, pace is something that's super important, and we'll have a whole episode on that. But graphics are one of the things that, I will probably, during these videos, add a couple of graphics when I'm flagging a bit. Because, if I'm struggling and the viewer's sat there with their hovering thumb waiting to shift on to the next video, but I pop a graphic up, saying something, maybe a little fact strap or something like that, then actually it adds pace. It keeps engagement. Some of this is slightly complex, and what graphics can do is simplify it. So we may well put up a graphic on screen saying graphics can add X, Y, and Z, and that's just a graphic doing exactly what a graphic should do. That's one of the things we talked about with this pod, is just sort of saying, well, here are the nuts and bolts, and we'll show you some of the things that went into it.
What about maps?
Maps. Okay, so the great thing about maps...
Oh, look at your face light up.
So this is the thing I love. The thing with maps is you can get really good ones for free, and I love that. So basically, just get yourself a Google Earth Studio login, and you can do fly-throughs. I did one of Wembley Stadium, and it took me probably 20 minutes, and I'm not the world's most technical man. So, actually maps are great, and they're easy, and using Google Earth Studio, you can do some really good stuff for free. So people should really get themselves a login for that.
How does that lift the content, though?
Whenever you're talking about a physical location, the human instinct is to want to see that location, to want to see where it is. I work in news a lot, and I would say we don't use enough maps. I work in international news, and we will talk about Ouagadougou, and it's like, most people, if we're honest, if they're in the UK, might have to think twice about where that is. Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to put a map up on screen telling people where it is, and then suddenly you know what we're talking about. And that's what graphics are for, but they can do more. Like I say, they can add a bit of pace, add a bit of engagement when someone's flagging on screen.
And when you're talking about graphics, what specifically do you mean? We've mentioned maps and things like that, but what about logos and other things? And what's the terminology that people need to know?
The simplest things that all video producers should have are lower thirds, and that'll be name straps. And lower third means literally it covers the lower third of the screen. It's very, very complex, that bit. But on lower thirds, you can have name straps, you can have fact straps. So again, when something is perhaps not quite clear enough in a conversation, you can just add a bit of information. News channels do it a lot. They'll add a lot of fact straps to keep engagement up, but also story straps, so that in case a viewer gets lost, and you have to, give the viewer a hand once in a while, just a story strap. So we're talking about why graphics matter, so we might have a strap that says that. And the other thing, it's not a lower third, but a little tag in the corner for credits. So, if you get a picture from someone, you just need to credit it, and that's another thing that you should have in hand.
Okay, so how do people go about actually getting these things on their video? How complicated is it?
It's not that complicated. I think the important thing is, if you're commissioning someone to do it, you just ask for these things. And they should provide them. Videographers are usually pretty good, and they're looking to help you make a really good product. But again, if you go to places like Canva and Adobe Spark and one or two other places, Adobe Premiere Pro, which people who are going to produce video probably want to get at some point, there are standard ones in there. I think you probably need to invest in the paid versions to get better ones. But literally, you go to Canva and say lower third name strap, and then you change the colours and the font, and there it is.
So that's basically for anybody who's in-housing their videos, isn't it? But what about publishers who already have some creative subscriptions?
So they just need to expand them. You know, they will. A lot of them will have Photoshop, InDesign, and other things. And I like Adobe, but there are other editing software that a lot of people like. One of the things I would really say though, and it's really important, is you've got to have someone who can use it. Mm-hmm. You know, Premiere Pro or any editing software, if you don't have someone in-house who can use it, maybe think about getting a freelance in. You know, I'm perfectly happy to help people find freelance. Got loads of freelance editor mates. And it's super important. You can invest as much as you like in kit and subscriptions and software and all that, but you've got to have people who can use it. It's the most important thing. It's, as with anything in business, it's all about the people.
What else are people going to need?
So people are going to need some full frame graphics, literally graphics that fill the whole frame. And there's a couple of different kinds that they should have as standard and ready to go. One will be text or quote graphic, and this can be used for, you know, redoing people's social posts or any quote, basically. And there's a couple of things that you'll need within that. You'll need space for a social logo. You probably want space for a photo. You want space for a name. And then you definitely only want space for about 20 to 25 words, possibly less. People are really obsessed, and I've worked with people who've done this time and time again, where there will be a quote and they will put the whole thing on screen, and there's 50 words on screen, and you leave it up for 3 seconds, and the viewer's sat there going, sorry, what? Yeah. They've got no chance. Yeah. So one of the things that you've really got to do is, if you're going to put text on screen, just keep it super tight. I would say 20, 25 words is an absolute maximum. I think really, if you can get away with 15 and just key phrases from quotes, that's what you need. And the tip for how long to leave it on screen is read it once out loud. So play it through, read it once out loud, and move on. You don't need it up there for ages. You definitely don't want it too short, because then you leave your viewer begging. And as well as the text graphic, people, especially in B2B magazines, will need probably a pie chart and a bar chart ready to go. Simple ones that just tell statistical stories, that illustrate them, that make a point. And people will say, oh, I'm not sure we need them. I'm pretty certain they will. You know, the amount of times I've needed them for a video that I've been making, and I just think people will want them, so they should just have them ready to go. And again, you can use Canva or Adobe Spark for those. They are the slightly more limited ones, you know, but even then they still work, so it's fine. If you're in housing, you can use that. If you're commissioning out, ask for something more. See what you can get.
Okay, so motion graphics.
Motion graphics are basically graphics that move. Some people would argue that they're the bar charts that we've just been talking about. I'd argue that's probably a slightly old-fashioned view now. They're standard. Motion graphics are kind of more bespoke things, explainers, that kind of thing, and we'll put a few up on screen so people can see exactly what we're talking about. But they are also, the thing you've got to be aware of with motion graphics is they are potentially ruinously expensive. They really are. I was lucky. I was in charge of a newsroom that had a graphic designer in-house. If I asked for a decently complex motion graphic, that was that person out of the game for 2 days. Mm. So, you know, that is an expense in itself. And I think you've just got to be super clear about what it is you want a motion graphic to do and what your vision for it is if you're commissioning. Because if you're not clear and you get halfway through and change your mind, it's just more money.
And that all comes down to planning, doesn't it?
Exactly. So planning with graphics is the absolute key. That's the conversation that you have. If you're in housing with your producer and your designer, whoever you've got to hand, you need to plan your graphics. I feel like I'm sounding like someone who's emotionally scarred by the expense of graphics. They can be really time consuming and they can be really expensive. Well, the reason to plan graphics so carefully is because they can do so much for you. You know, they can explain a complex issue. They can lift content that's flagging slightly. You know, all the things we talked about with graphics overall, motion graphics can do even better. But, you know, if you don't plan it properly, they won't do that, and you'll have spent resource on something that doesn't quite do what you need to do. So you really need to plan it. And actually, planning a graphic is pretty simple. It's like you just do a split screen and you do this is what I'd like it to look like, and this is the script that's going to go over the top. And you just do, for each animation, you just go down through the sections. And it's a really good way to do things. It keeps things simple, and it keeps everyone on the same page as well, which is quite challenging.
That's always the challenge, isn't it? What other examples have you got? Obviously, you've got quite a varied career. What have you come across in your lifetime?
So, yeah, that makes me sound really old. The newsroom I was in charge of, I was making a TV show, and I was taking that newsroom through a digital transformation, and I wanted my reporters, who were old school TV guys mostly, to have graphics because of all the things that graphics can do for you, but I had that one designer. So constantly it's a matter of making sure that if you invest in a graphic, each motion graphic especially is an investment. It's going to be for content that's got a real lifetime to it. You know, one of the things I think that people really need to consider when they're making video overall is making video as timeless as possible, because then it will keep serving your audience and keep serving, therefore, your interests. And therefore, when you're investing slightly wider in possibly a 2-camera shoot or that kind of thing, it's the same with graphics. You just need to make sure that if you're investing in it, it's something that will be timeless and live forever. The other trick is reuse them. Don't be shy. Most viewers haven't seen all your video, so don't be shy about reusing it. If you've made a really nice graphic, use it a couple of times. Don't be, I've made this one thing and it shall live forever only in that place. You have to reuse everything that's at your disposal, because video can be a pricey business.
Yeah, and you've mentioned the price on a number of occasions. Are you trying to put people off, or let them know it's okay?
I'm really not. It's really important that people are aware of the potential cost with graphics. They are absolutely worth it. They will do so much for your content, but unless you absolutely plan them properly, unless you are clear about what you want them for, what they can do, what they're aiming to do with the content, then actually it's money wasted. So and I am scarred by graphics that have gone wrong in the past.
They add pace though, don't they?
Think about the times you went to the movies and you came out after 2 hours going, oh my God, I can't believe that was 2 hours. Felt like 20 minutes. That was amazing. That's what you want from all your videos, and graphics can help you do that.
How long has this video felt like?
A lifetime.
Staying on brand is important for people though, isn't it?
Magazine pros know this probably better than I do, that it's really important to stay on brand. The trouble is, once you get into what's available to you in some of the creative subscriptions, it is really easy to go, oh, wow, we could have this and that. And I've done it. You know, I've absolutely done it, and had, you know, the head of marketing at where I used to work come down and say, well, that's not on brand. And I'm like, no, it's not, is it? So
it looks good.
Yeah, but they're right, because, you know, people know about brand. It's just about making people familiar and safe and knowing they're in the right place with people who know what they're doing. And if you're going to start using a lot of motion graphics, if you want to invest that way, which I absolutely think you should, maybe establish one style to use, because there's endless different animation styles you can use. I would make sure that you just choose one you like and maybe stick with that, so that viewers know they're in the right place.
Any other tips for everyone?
So this is about the people who will do it, and the people who are best placed to do these graphics are probably a page designer, because they will have a really good understanding, and it's a chance for them to have professional development. And they may well already be doing motion graphics. You know, designers are like, they're always playing with things, and they may already have that. And if not them, then your editorial assistant, because the odds are they'll be using a lot of them on social anyway. So, you know, talk to your social team, talk to your editorial assistant, talk to your page designer, because they will be people you already have in-house who may well be able to pick up some of this work and actually will probably be really interested to do it.